Now it's time for the Nature Boy and a heel Undertaker on a collision course at WrestleMania 18 in Canada. After the Undertaker picks up the win, he holds up both of his hands and realizes, hey, I'm 10-0. And I think this, as the story goes, is the show where Michael Hayes is the person who points out, did you realize the Undertaker has never actually lost at WrestleMania? Is this the first time you remember the streak being discussed here in '02?
I think so. I think it was. Michael's always observant. As Michael Hayes is a great mind for the wrestling business. WWE's lucky to have him. He does a great job, no doubt about that. He's just an old veteran that they brought all those territory perfected skills forward. So, but I think that was probably the first time that I can recall where the streak became an issue, became a thing. And luckily it did, because look where it went. And it's something fans look forward to every year. The Taker and whomever it's going to be, can that person beat the streak? And of course, we found out that the only person that's going to beat the streak was Brock Lesnar, which I still to this day am not a proponent of that. I don't think Taker should have ever lost at WrestleMania.
Agree.
I think he should have stayed undefeated and clean. And amazing opportunity for Taker and whomever he worked with. So the guys that were in there challenging him, they had as much to gain as anybody. It may sound ridiculous to say, but to be in the ring with Taker at WrestleMania was a hell of a booking for somebody.
We know Taker is going to become undisputed champion later that year. He's going to defeat Hulk Hogan, and it's going to be a bowling shoe ugly match in Nashville, as a friend of mine would say. Yeah. But that same year, once he's champion, he's going to have a ladder match with Jeff Hardy on Monday Night Raw. And you had a call that I think has made that match even bigger in wrestling lore. Was your famous line there? Was that something that you sort of had in mind before the match started, or was it just organic and those words just fell out of your mouth?
Just organic. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
The story that the two talents are telling, I tried to embellish and try to, do the best I could to tell that story. Climb the ladder, kid, make yourself famous, still is lingering. People still remember it. And how many years ago has that been? A long time to retain that information from a pro wrestling matchup, but it just seemed to fit. I think I always did my best work when I was reacting organically, in a real sense, in a real state of mind. And that helped put Jeff Hardy on the map. Again, Taker taking care of a guy that he got a great match out of, and he played to Jeff's strengths. And it seemed to work out very well at that time. It was quite the moment, to be honest with you.
We know that he eventually is going to drop the world title to The Rock, and that's really just to transition it to Brock Lesnar. But really, Taker helps put Lesnar over when he becomes the undisputed champion. I don't think anybody could ever argue that the Undertaker was selfish. I mean, you take a look at just what we've talked about so far. He's made guy after guy after guy. Did he not?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he did it willingly, and he did it professionally. So I was very, Taker never disappointed. And very few guys can you say that about. He was just absolutely phenomenal and embellishing talent and rising, rising those high tides, raise all ships. And Taker was a master of that. So everybody that we've talked about here today came out better after losing to Taker than they would have if they had gone over. They got over, and that's always the old cliche in wrestling. It's not as much about who goes over; it's about who gets over. And everybody that Taker worked with got over to some degree, and they were better leaving the match than they were entering the match.
Super fun look down memory lane here at GrillingJR on YouTube.com. If you're not able to visualize what we're talking about, Dave Silva's coming through with some great photos for us here on the show. We should also mention that there's another buried alive match set up here, and it's going to be Vince burying the Undertaker alive at Survivor Series. A little bit of help from his brother Kane, and that leads to yet another hiatus. It feels like anytime we see Undertaker lose a buried alive match, he's going to come back with a different persona. This one will be no different. He comes back at WrestleMania 20, and we're back to the dead man. It is a little bit of a different dead man because he's working his MMA style like he did with the American Badass, but he's still doing all of the old school Undertaker spots. And now he's got Paul Bearer back at his side. This feels like the best of both worlds. The character has evolved and maybe gone back to its roots, but he's still bringing along some of those traits that we fell in love with along the way.
Yeah, he's got to sing his hits. It's like going to see an Eagles concert. They're going to play Hotel California likely at the end and maybe in the beginning, but they're going to get their hits in because people expect they pay to see those hits being performed. And Taker was kind of that way. Had an Eagles feel about him. All those great hits. You want to see them. You want to experience him as a fan sitting at ringside. And then, of course, that gravitates to the TV viewer and how they're buying into the whole scenario. So, he was. Taker was always mentally a step ahead. He knew what his character should do or should not do. Maybe even more importantly, perhaps. It's always been said that it's not what you do, it's what you don't do that gets you over. So, but he's a phenomenon. He's like a Lou Gehrig kind of a guy. He just was the Iron Man. And he pushed himself so hard that he got wore down and beat up, and we had to monitor that because he needed some time off. When you get a guy that big, you gotta be judicious in how you book them because their bodies are just not. They're just not. It's not like working with Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, Stone Cold. Average size guys. Maybe can be more resilient. I don't know, but I know that Taker needed some time off, and we ended up facilitating that. But as you said, Conrad, so astutely, every time they did a major angle, whether it be burning him or burying him or whatever it may be, he reinvented. Somewhere in that transitional period, he became different. To sometimes just small degrees, but he became different. His entrance was different. It wasn't the Undertaker entrance; it was the American Badass entrance, and it seemed like it worked. It introduced him to the audience in a very positive way, and the audience perceived that they were seeing this phenomenal star, who's obviously a Hall of Fame guy, without question. They could have a Hall of Fame. There's only one guy inducted to be all right with me. That was Taker. I'm never surprised at what he accomplishes. It's even like right now he's doing these one-man shows, and if you'd asked me this 10 years ago, I'd have said, well, he wouldn't even be interested in that deal,
Right?
because he was so guarded with his persona that he probably would not have gone for it. But he surprised us again, and he's doing great business at these one-man shows and things, with his telling his stories and so forth. So he's just a phenomenon, and I know we talk about that a lot. That word, phenomenon, but that's what he is. Taker's just a phenomenon, and he just refuses to rest on his laurels, and that's what makes a great wrestler over a long period of time. Is not ever allowing yourself to rest on your laurels, and Taker never did do that.